Tyler Perry, who was building an $800 million studio, and he paused the construction as soon as he saw, what is it called, Sora? Sora.
If you haven't heard about OpenAI's Sora, it's about to blow your mind.
And maybe even your eyes.
In an instant, we've gone from Will Smith eating pasta to this.
Honestly, if I saw this on Twitter, I'd be like, oh, nice drone shot, dude. And that has all sorts of implications for the drone pilot that no longer needs to be hired, for all the photographers and videographers whose footage no longer needs to be licensed to show up in that ad that's being made.
The implications are so massive that it's tough to try to wrap your head around.
This is cool, Brian. I mean, yeah, it could mean millions of people, though, could be out of work.
Well, how long till I can take my favorite book or novel and just feed it into the computer and have the computer make it a movie or a Netflix series?
If it's a very big computer in the cloud, about 2 years.
The era of Hollywood is basically over. You're going to be able to just make a movie yourself by typing in a few prompts.
Yeah. We're fucked, because there will be no more jobs.
What does that do to the industry? I think it erases it. I don't think the industry changes. I think it goes away.
When you got an idea you want to move on, you might not have the money, you might not have the education, you might not have the support or the resources you need. What is that something that can keep us going, that will enable us to act on our dream? Here's what I want you to repeat after me, please, with power and conviction. Say, it's possible.
This is Les Brown, one of the world's leading motivational speakers. 2 years ago, when I started a motivational videos channel on YouTube and was looking for materials, he stood out. It was the beginning of 2023. I just became aware of ChatGPT. I gradually felt conflicted. Here I was editing videos which are supposed to uplift people, make them believe in themselves and in the power they have to face any crisis and make their lives better. But ChatGPT seemed to signal that the world where you could redeem yourself through hard work and determination might come to an end, with the presentation of AI tools that are built in order to eventually outperform humans in any task possible. How could you redeem yourself in a world where job opportunities have become obsolete? In a world like that, would Les Brown's uplifting speeches be relevant at all?
The meaning and value.
AI space is on a roll right now. I mean, the game does not stop.
In just 18 months, over 1 billion people have used large language models. We are in the fastest and most consequential wave ever.
The developments in AI are moving so fast. Every day it unlocks something new and fundamental for economic and national security.
It feels like things are changing incredibly fast. Like this generation is undergoing a more rapid change of their technological environment than ever before. Is it really? Or does every generation feel that way?
Every generation thinks like that, but this time it's real.
At some point, we will be able to use our models to say, all right, like, let's do amazing things with a robot.
But if the hardware guys who've done a good job on legs actually get the arms, hands, fingers piece, and then we couple it and it's not ridiculously expensive, that could change the job market for a lot of the blue-collar type work pretty rapidly.
Yeah. This robot is learning the behaviors through the use of neural networks, and it's improving on them trial and error, step by step, by itself, automagically.
What we want our humanoids to do is to do physical work. And we want them to be a generalizable replacement for human labor.
They're already having them work as kitchen assistants, where they talk to you in your kitchen.
I go to studios where you used to go in those places and see like 12 cameramen. There's one producer and all the cameras are robotic.
We hear from people who are excited. We hear from people who are concerned.
I am very worried about it being a job destroyer because that's the low road, and what we are seeing from the Hollywood studios, what we're seeing from BuzzFeed, what we're seeing from the ad industry, and what we're seeing from many office jobs is that that's going to be the most natural tendency.
That's going to steamroll through society. That is just going to mow people over.
The layoffs in technology just keep coming.
What if Google's layoffs, they're just the beginning of an entirely new trend? Rather than playing catch-up or correcting post-pandemic, this is actually Google getting into position for an AI platform shift that will require a different kind of workforce.
The move by Paytm highlights a strategic shift, one that leans towards leveraging AI for greater efficiency.
Just today I saw this use case where they replaced 700 workers with a bot and saved $38 million and drove customer service calls from 10 minutes to 2 minutes. So everyone won except the 700 people that used to work there.
OpenAI will roll out an update that obliterates the jobs of illustrators from one day to the next, obliterates the jobs of translators from one day to the next.
If you're in the Philippines, what's happening to your entire call center industry when you have a 24/7 AI that speaks perfect English?
There are jobs where your tasks, what you actually do minute to minute, are pretty much the tasks that AI is doing faster, cheaper, and higher quality.
If AI does everything and what AI doesn't do, the robots do, then where do I fit in as a person, as someone who's on this planet for a certain period of time?
Perhaps the biggest nightmare is the looming new industrial revolution, the displacement of millions of workers.
We're looking down the line at AI, automation, and you're going, are we not just going to make millions of jobs obsolete?
And now pretty much everybody in tech thinks that generative AI is the next big platform shift. However, that's about the only thing that we really think is clear. After that, all the questions are wide open. In fact, we're still trying to work out what the questions are.
So the big question is, when will AI change our lives? I think that's a much harder question than will AI change our lives.
Any prediction that you make with a timeline is guaranteed to be wrong. So I'll try to give myself at least a little bit of buffer. And I know that everything I'm saying is probably directionally correct, timeline probably way off.
But in 2 years or 5 years from now, would you need to rethink your thesis or redo your calculations?
I should have prefaced this by saying there's a huge amount of uncertainty in any forecast about AI, and apologies that I didn't do that.
It is incredibly hard to predict the future right now, even for those of us in the middle of it.
So all sorts of kind of science questions as to how good this will get, where the answer is, I don't know, but neither does anybody else.
Do you think it's an AI bubble? You said bubble, so I'm going to ask, is this a bubble?
So there's this suspicion growing that AI is nothing but marketing hype, that it's the same as crypto.
Like I was saying, it's FTX. It's a safe and easy way to get into crypto.
I don't think so. A Web3 and the metaverse, just a new way for these tech companies to prop up their stock prices because they don't have any other real ideas.
Do you have an example of something that humans are doing that you think AIs are potentially super far away from?
Well, almost everything that humans do in the economy, AI is pretty far away from that. I don't need some special example. I can just pick a random job.
Do you think that we are in some sort of hype cycle? Do you think that actually this market is as big as many are factoring in?
Well, first of all, we are definitely in a hype cycle. There's going to be multiple. One day you read in the papers, LLMs can do anything, and the next day you read, they've hit a limit. Ignore all that stuff. We're just starting this. There's going to be massive transformations.
In December 2023, the International Monetary Fund, IMF, published an article by economist Anton Koronek highlighting 3 scenarios for AI's economic impact. 1. Business as usual. AI improves productivity and creates new job opportunities for displaced workers. 2. Baseline. AGI in 20 years. AGI automates all human tasks within 2 decades to evaluate labor. 3. Aggressive. AGI in 5 years, similar to the baseline, but faster. The IMF's recognition of AI's uncertain economic effects emphasizes the issue's urgency. In order to say something about the future of work and economy in light of AI progress, we have to navigate a minefield of open questions. But we need to at least outline some kind of approximate trajectory.
I think now, when we are approaching what I think will be this transition to a machine intelligence era, we maybe need to give some deeper thought to what ultimately it is that we would be hoping to achieve if we avoid all the pitfalls and the dangers, like what is the actual destination that we are steering towards.
Before we dive into the possible future problems caused by fast AI-fueled automation, let's hear what some of the AI proponents are thinking about a positive future enabled by it.
We think we can have like significant economical value if we can basically have robots doing real work every single day.
Once you have general purpose humanoid robots and autonomous vehicles, you can build anything.
Whether it's cleaning your house or manufacturing cars or making a beautiful garden. We're going to go to a post-scarcity type economy.
In a benign AI scenario, we will really have an age of abundance. You'll be able to have any products and services you want.
I think over a long enough period of time, everybody will own a humanoid just to do work for them. Labor will be optional and you'll choose to do work or not.
Bad day at the office.
Yeah, those 3-hour work days are killing me.
We, as a human race, are then liberated from having to do routine work. So we can do things that we enjoy or we're good at.
This is one version of optimism, which basically claims automation will bring an age of abundance, where humans will not have to work at all.
It turns out when you look through human history, when there's a major automation of something, the instant reaction is, oh my God, we're going to have millions of people out of work. What actually happens is we create a ton more work that needs to get done, okay?
Another version of optimism claims that we'll enjoy an unprecedented prosperity, which will create endless job opportunities.
What happens is the introduction of technology into the production process causes prices to fall. As prices fall, consumers have more spending power. As consumers have more spending power, they create new demand. That new demand then causes capital and labor to form into new enterprises to satisfy new wants and needs. And the result is more jobs at higher wages.
To me, the future is not necessarily unemployment. It's actually corporations maybe being 80% AIs, 20% humans, but we have way more corporations and we're far more ambitious with what we do, right?
So it is sort of a happy story that labor demand and firms' desire to increase their scale are sufficient forces to translate some of the technological improvements into benefits for workers. And we question that.
What about the worker? The workers work for companies. And so companies, when they become more productive, earnings increase. I've never seen one company that had earnings increase and not hire more people.
But if you're doing automation, imagine an amazing factory that has no workers and produces a lot of output. Well, why should that make employers want to hire more labor?
There are some jobs that are going to become obsolete.
Customer service representative, automated. Receptionist, automated. Accountants and bookkeepers, automated. Salespeople, automated. Research and analysis, automated. Warehouse work, automated. Insurance underwriting, automated. Retail, automated.
Well, let me offer it this way. I believe that you still want human in the loop because we have good judgment, because there are circumstances that the machine's just not going to understand.
There will be many other jobs that will be very hard to predict. As history would tell us, every technological revolution has eventually provided more jobs than it decimated.
There'll be creators who will create for AI models or something like that and get paid for it.
You know, people have asked me, is AI going to take your job? And I always say, AI will not take your job. AI used by somebody else will take your job.
Who would have thought that there will be a prompt engineer, right?
Right. Prompt engineer. I think you mean types question guy. And by the way, if there's any job that can be easily replaced by AI, it's types question guy.
Many people say it'll create more jobs. For this particular thing, I'm not convinced of that. In the Industrial Revolution, we made human strength irrelevant. Now we're making human intelligence irrelevant.
What's different this time is, this is a machine of the mind. It shapes cognitive work.
I have a suspicion that AI is coming for the cognitive class.
You know, it used to be your labor. Okay, we can get past the labor. We got tractors and things, and you go up, 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 and we're up to the point in our minds where anything related to mental processing, the computer can probably do better.
Everyone's going to get brainwashed into thinking, okay, you have to be adaptable, you have to be like an efficient market actor, and if you can just do that, then you're going to be okay. No.
What if you're a janitor, you're like a freaking plumber, or you're gonna just change your how's that supposed to work?
At some point in the future, there will come a time when the cost of hiring a human to do a job will become equal to the cost of renting a robot to do that same job. When that point comes, we won't really need humans to work.
Human labor is going to become economically irrelevant. Let me say that again. The economic value of human labor is going to be zero before too long.
This concern has played out for literally centuries. And, this is the story of the Luddites. The overwhelming evidence is that the net gain here is wildly positive. And most people overwhelmingly come out the other side being huge beneficiaries of this.
there isn't even any question or debate that we today are beneficiaries of the process that started in the 18th century. The Industrial Revolution, the application of industrial technology, and then later scientific methods. We are much more comfortable, much healthier, and much more prosperous. So you might think that is exhibit number one for techno-optimism. Well, not quite. That process wasn't automatic either, and in fact, the first 80-90 years of the British Industrial Revolution did not bring much comfort or improvements to the working people.
But Darren, in the end, it became better. So,
it became better, but I think there was,
yes. So in my view, there will be a lot of disruption, like these other, like the Industrial Revolution was.
Also, look, 90 years. It took 90 years. Yeah. I don't think that's what we want to put up with.
That interim period can be very messy because it's a zero-sum game with people scrabbling over that. You need to think about how do you manage that transition, because there's vested interests and others when the whole world gets flipped and currencies start shifting because a lot of the anchors are broken.
Each technological revolution has gotten faster, and this will be the fastest by far. And that's the part that I find potentially a little scary, is just the speed with which society is going to have to adapt and that the labor market will change.
The worry is that the creation of new wants and needs at a rapid rate will mean there's a lot of turnover in jobs, so people will lose jobs. Just the actual experience of losing a job and having to learn new things and new skills is painful.
The transition period is the danger. I mean, some jobs disappear, some jobs appear, people have to transition. Just remember that Hitler rose to power in Germany because of 3 years of 25% unemployment.
Look, the transition's going to have pain. There's going to be challenges and reordering and so forth, disruption because of it.
And this is an industrial AI revolution done incredibly quickly, with multiple things from self-driving to autonomous agents to intelligence all coming at the same time.
At least those other disruptions took place over a century or decades. AI is going to be ready to take over by Thursday. And once that happens, what the is there left for the rest of us to do?
So the conditions of the working classes did not improve, not at all, until the second half of the 19th century. So was that an automatic process? No. That was a result of a redirection of technological change towards things that increase labor productivity, and through a process of institutional change, democratization, much better bureaucratic control of pollution, public infrastructure, public sanitation, and trade unions became legal and started for asking better conditions, higher wages, also having a say in how factories were run.
Why did the labor movement succeed after the Industrial Revolution? Because it was needed. The companies still needed to have workers, and that's why strikes had power and so on. If we get to the point where most humans aren't needed anymore, I think it's quite naive to think that they're going to still be treated well.
I am of the opinion that AI can already do all of the jobs that we as humans do. It's just a question of how we apply it and use it.
The only question is, can we create new jobs to make up for that? And that's difficult. Because
Do you think we can?
I doubt we can, to be honest.
Geoffrey Hinton, do you think that this increase in productivity, essentially, that will come with automation and so on and so forth, is a good thing for society?
Well, it ought to be, right? I mean, it's crazy. We're talking about having a huge increase in productivity, so there's going to be more goods and services for everybody, so everybody ought to be better off. But actually, it's going to be the other way around. And it's because we live in a capitalist society. And so what's going to happen is this huge increase in productivity is going to make much more money for the big companies and the rich. And it's going to increase the gap between the rich and the people who lose their jobs.
The technology provides those who control it the power to improve things, but also the power to dominate others, gain all of the advantage, create more inequality.
I worry about economics and the concentration of power. I worry about how do we make sure that that fair world reaches everyone. When things have gone wrong for humans, they've often gone wrong because humans mistreat other humans.
How do we make sure that it's not like a handful of people in San Francisco making the decisions and reaping all the benefits? The social inequality we have today is nothing compared to what we could have if we don't address it, because AI will just be such a powerful lever. I think we have an opportunity that comes along only every couple of centuries to redo the socioeconomic contract, and how we include everybody in that and make everybody a winner, and how we don't destroy ourselves in the process is a huge question.
You list in the list of what we must do as rethink our economic models. One of the biggest challenges is that our historic economic models aren't viable. They don't make sense anymore with what's coming, given AI and humanoid robotics. So how do you think about rethinking our economic models? Where do you imagine it going?
That's a nice, simple question, Peter.
You just lost your capitalist model. You have a model with two inputs called K and L that's taught in every university that subscribes to neoclassical economics. What's AI? Is it L? Is it labor? Is it capital? What the heck is it?
There is no distinction between capital and labor once you can automate pretty much everything. This is a profound challenge to capitalism, and I think we need to be honest about it.
Well, no kidding. This is going to break capitalism. It's entirely clear that it's going to break capitalism. And?
The old structures can't answer those questions. So we need completely new models and new structures, new value systems, new monetary systems, etc., to deal with these structures going forward.
That creates massive dysfunctions in a bunch of ways. So for instance, if you have workers who don't have cash capital to buy goods and services, which are made more productively than ever before because you have so much automation, then you have a crisis of what's called price of demand or underconsumption, which is you don't have people who can buy all the goods and services being made.
While automation promises unprecedented productive efficiency, it simultaneously threatens to eliminate human labor income. Without wages, where does consumer purchasing power come from?
Society and politicians needs to recognize that this is not something that's going to change in 10 years. The implications for society are going to come in the coming years, and it's time to think a little bit proactively about what measures could be taken as a consequence.
I still find it mind-blowing that people don't seem to be fully grasping the trajectory that we're on. I mean, we are going to produce a replacement to cognitive management in the next couple of years. That's going to have a massively fundamental shift to the labor market. If structural disemployment goes up by 1 or 2%, the financial cost of managing that transition is phenomenal. The impact on populism and the political process is phenomenal. So I just feel like, that's the conversation that we should all be having.
The companies do not have a plan for the hundreds of millions to billion jobs that they are about to displace.
Yeah, that's sort of what we've been wondering is when this shows up in the macroeconomic conversations, and is the Fed paying? I mean, we know the Fed's paying attention, but there's a lot of research to be done. I've been asking heads of IMF, because if it's going to have profound effects on productivity and economic growth and labor market, it's something we have to understand.
It needs to be viewed really as an emergency situation in which there's a good plan worked out for how to deal with that effectively.
All hell's about to break loose. And my question is, are you trying to figure out which way the wave is going to break and get your surfboard in the water? Are you trying to figure out how to anticipate this? No, in general, we sit around worrying about it in the most inert way possible.
There really is no plan. That's the single biggest thing that you get hit over the head with over and over, whether it's talking to the people who are in charge of the labor transition. Their whole thing is like, universal basic income, and then question mark, and then smiley face. That's basically the 3 steps that they envision. It's the same when you look internationally. Like, okay, tomorrow you build an AGI that's like incredibly powerful, potentially dangerous thing. What is the plan? Like, how are you gonna, I don't know, you're gonna secure it, share it?
Figure it out as we go along, man.
Yeah. That's the freaking message. That is the entire plan.
If we live in this world of infinite abundance with billions of robots and trillions of agents, what is money? So we need to rethink how our economic flows go and the rights around that as well. And that's difficult and it's hard. That's why I think every nation needs their own AI experts, AI teams. We need to get the smartest economists in the world to think about this and think outside the box.
This is the moment. Why are we not holding a conference on after capitalism and communism? What is the next economic system? Do you imagine that Adam Smith and Karl Marx would just be sitting on their hands? No, they'd be smart enough to say, okay, we now need a new model.
We're going to have an opportunity to push the reset button and think about the world we want. And I think universal basic income is one part of that.
So, universal basic income, this is what this is all about. My initial knee-jerk reaction was, get the out of here. Like, universal basic income, just going to give people money, they're just going to be lazy, nothing's ever going to get done. That's a terrible idea. And then I started paying attention to the rise of AI and automation and how many jobs are going to get taken away from. And then once you see the actual numbers, it's pretty staggering.
The idea is as AI and robotics start to disrupt the job markets and people lose their job to technology, we need to do a few things. Potentially, at least in the interim, is give them reliable income, a universal basic income that allows them to put food on the table, get insurance, perhaps get a better education, perhaps invest in whatever tech they need to start a small business. And it's about human dignity to a large degree and getting rid of fear, because there's going to be a lot of fear as AI steps in a bigger way in the next few years.
UBI, Universal Basic Income, seems to be the main solution many propose for a world where human jobs have become obsolete. But there are many problems with the concept of UBI, as far as I can see. Over the years, several UBI experiments have been conducted, including one concluded in mid-2024, backed by OpenAI CEO Sam Altman, where low-income individuals received $1,000 per month. However, it's important to note that these experiments evaluated UBI's impact on individuals within our current economy, where most people work and UBI supplements their income. They did not examine a future scenario where jobs became obsolete and most people would have to rely solely on their monthly UBI allowance. In my view, this makes these experiments largely irrelevant to the UBI envisioned for a post-labor society.
UBI is basically like just getting an allowance from your parents, and that's not good. I mean, it's a start, it's better than nothing, but that is no way to live.
I think technology does a great deal to lift the world to more abundance, to greater heights, to better prosperity, whatever you want to call it. You can see lots of ways. It doesn't take much imagination that AI does more to help the poorest people than the richest people. And we really believe that. We're enthusiastic about it.
AI advocates often claim that the immense wealth AI will generate could help third world countries close the gap with the West. But is this realistic?
So James, let me ask you then, if you think technology, AI, could help Africa develop?
But Africa has not been benefiting from all this technology.
Could it, I'm saying?
It could. But to do that, many things have to change. Institutions have to change, politics has to change.
And then the even bigger issue is one of space. The disappearance of jobs and the new jobs will be created in different parts of the world. So we might see a situation when there is immense demand for more jobs in California or Texas or China, whereas entire countries lose their economic basis.
So we look industry by industry. First, you stop offshoring, then you stop graduate hiring, and then it impacts the workers.
The only prospect for rebuilding U.S. manufacturing is to climb the tech stack and build new kinds of factories that are fully robotic and fully AI-enabled, where they're extremely advanced, sophisticated systems that run in a very different model than a manual labor system. You pour as much technology in them as you possibly can. And the reason for that is just very straightforward, which is the big thing that caused U.S. manufacturing to move offshore was the cost of people. It was just flat out cheaper to hire people in, Korea or Vietnam or China or India or Mexico.
Consider Vietnam with its massive manufacturing sector, which accounts for about 25% of its GDP and includes many foreign companies that have relocated production there. Or take the Philippines, where a significant portion of GDP comes from customer service, IT support, and financial services provided to Western companies and customers. All these sectors are at risk of being disrupted by AI.
I think anything that's outsourced right now, that has to be in danger.
The winners of the AI race will most likely be American companies, and possibly some Chinese ones. The US and China might be able to tax these companies to fund universal basic income, UBI, for their citizens. But what about the rest of the world?
Let's talk about DeepSeek, because it is mind-blowing and it is shaking this entire industry to its core.
In the wake of the Chinese open source large language model DeepSeek R1, there has been a lot of talk about the need to make LLMs open source.
I think if you want regulations, the most important regulation would be to not open source big models. It's crazy to open source these big models because bad actors can then fine-tune them for all sorts of bad things.
I might be wrong here, but as Hinton has noted regarding security concerns, if we want to survive, these models likely cannot be open source in the future. This raises an important question. How would other countries generate enough wealth to fund UBI?
I think there will be immense new wealth created by these technologies. I'm less sure that the governments will be able to redistribute this wealth in a fair way on a global level. Like, I just don't see the US government raising taxes on corporations in California and sending the money to help unemployed textile workers in Pakistan or Guatemala.
Take a European country like Finland, for example, with its substantial IT and manufacturing sectors. If we assume that AI will not be open source, there is a significant likelihood that AI products from the US and China could dominate the market and disrupt large portions of Finland's economy. In that case, how could Finland afford UBI?
So a lot of people are thinking, oh, if the robots take all the jobs, we'll just have our government hand out a UBI, and then everybody will be okay. See, the problem with that is you're counting on this new robot economy being in your jurisdiction, so you can tax it to pay for the UBI. But this new robot economy doesn't have to be equally spread around the world. It doesn't have to be showing up in your jurisdiction so you can tax it. It might be showing up only in a few other places.
And beyond this, there is another major problem with UBI.
I certainly believe in universal basic income. I don't think that's enough, though, because a lot of people get their self-respect from the job they do. And if you put everybody on universal basic income, that solves the problem of them starving and not being able to pay the rent, but it doesn't solve the self-respect problem.
Universal basic income to you is still the best thing we can do. People used to always ask you, well, what about the meaning that work provides? And you're like, yeah, that's a tough one. Like, I don't know what to tell you about that.
Look, I'm someone who believes very deeply that people need structure, purpose, fulfillment, community, and that we work for a multitude of reasons, not just to pay the bills.
Jobs bring dignity, and they bring an identity, and they bring structure.
We have also idea for I-risk, ikigai risks, where we lost our meaning. The systems can be more creative, they can do all the jobs. It's not obvious what you have to contribute to a world where superintelligence exists.
What would you do if you didn't have to do anything because robots could do everything better than you?
I get a lot of excitement that, hey, I'm good at working on malaria and malaria eradication and getting smart people and applying resources to that. When the machine says to me, Bill, go play pickleball, I've got malaria eradication, you're just a slow thinker, then, it is a philosophically confusing thing, and how you organize society. Yes, we're going to improve education, but education to do what?
Well, you've got to wonder what happens to the general population. People that their life is going to be taken over by automation, and how susceptible those people are going to be. They're not going to have any agency. They're going to be relying on a check. And this idea of like going out and doing something. You're gonna have a giant swath of the population that has no purpose.
If you can build safe AGI, if you can build superintelligence, basically all the limitations that cause harm today can be completely eliminated. It's a wonderful possibility. And this is not sci-fi. This is something which is clearly possible according to the laws of physics. But unfortunately, that'll only happen if we steer in that direction. That's absolutely not the default outcome. That's why income inequality keeps going up. That's why the life expectancy in the US has been going down now. I think it's 4 years in a row.
At the present moment, 2024, we still have control of the direction that AI is developing, but I don't know for how many more years.
And we can still choose the future that we want. But we have to actually see the risk clearly so we know the kinds of choices that we need to make to get to that future.
Well, I think if we never lift our eyes from the ground and gaze towards the horizon, we have no way of telling whether we are on the right track or not. Like, we might be making a lot of progress, but unless we consider where we are ultimately headed, like, we might be making progress in the wrong direction.
I'm very worried about the existential risk of AI, but I made this film specifically because I feel we urgently need to also address the economic and social implications of AI. In the current trajectory we're on with AI and robotics, it's quite obvious to me that if we survive artificial superintelligence, which is not trivial at all, we're heading towards a default outcome which entails a loss of human value, extreme inequality, and mass poverty for most human beings. We need to decide now if that's the future we want, and if not, what we're going to do about it. I want a world where we have agency over our lives, where we can be secure while having opportunities to improve our situation and realize our potential as individuals. A world where Les Brown's message about our endless possibilities still rings true.
And it's possible that I can bring my greatness out here in the universe, that I can do what I want to do. It's possible I can write my own book. I can have my own business. I can take the trip and travel around the world. It's possible. I can bounce back from adversity and reinvent my life. It's possible. Regardless of where I am, the things can get better for me. It's possible